Hey, you've got this part of the video. You've got the live unedited edition. Home Gadget Geeks Thursday night. It's the 3rd of November. It's 8 p.m. in the Central Time. Well, 2022. It's 8 p.m. in the Central Time Zone, 9 Eastern. If you got this any other time than that, you've just got the recorded version on YouTube. We're in a little bit of pre-show. Hang around. We'll get started in a few minutes with the riveting tech topics. But before we get going, well, first of all, I got Marv Bee with me tonight. Uncle Marv, welcome.
Hello, hello.
Good to have you out. You got a little, for those regulars who've seen you before, you've been on a couple times. Your background has changed a little bit. You're in a new spot.
Yep, new spot. I probably should have prepared some pictures for you, but this is a new space in my office. Before we had about 2/3 of this side of the building. There's two sides to it. And recently the tenant on this side moved out and we snatched up our side of the space because we got tired of noisy neighbors.
Yeah.
So that was one motivation. The other motivation is this is a very nice looking space. It's also got a kitchen and its own bathroom side. So we thought this would be a good place to do meetups.
Yeah.
And then I've kind of mapped off this area here as my podcast studio. So we've only been here a few months, so I don't have everything quite set, but this is where we are.
Nice. Congrats on that. Like when you say meetups, what would a meetup look like for you? Because 2 weeks ago with Christian, I talked about doing a meetup here in Omaha, but what would a meetup look like for you?
So some of what we do would be podcast related. So we've got some buddies in other podcasts where they'll just do meetups every now and then. So listeners in the area will just drive in and we'll do a Saturday hangout. The other thought is, now that I've done a few conferences with a group called ASCII, there's a bunch of ASCII members that are down here. So just, inviting them over to the office, hanging out, doing a lunch, a little happy hour. So those types of things.
Cool. Yeah. Cool. That's what I've lacked here, is a good space to do those kinds of things, just to be honest. And so I still don't know if I have a space, but we're looking maybe at May 6th here in Omaha for folks to fly in. It's Berkshire Hathaway weekend. It's nuts here, but it's super fun. That's like a great weekend to be in Omaha. I think we'll have some kind of meetup. We'll talk some more about it here a little bit later. But
I was
in Omaha.
Yeah, I was, I'm not going to say I was close to you, but in Oklahoma City about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. No, you're closer than you are now.
Yeah.
Right? Closer than you are now. You got a beer. What'd you get?
So, we are getting close to our winter time. So I've switched from the Sam Adams summer ale to the winter lager. Now that November has rolled around.
You're in Florida. Like winter for you is like 75.
Winter for us is 2 weeks in February.
Exactly. Or it gets down to 75. And then at night maybe it gets to 30 and you get a little worried that
the oranges may freeze. That's a national crisis for us.
Spray water on them because that makes sense. But the water's warmer. It doesn't freeze. It makes sense. Us northern people are like, you're spraying what on what? For when, and we're thinking like, is this going to become an ice cube? No, actually the water will never get cold enough to freeze.
The two ways it's cold in Florida: the oranges may freeze and the iguanas fall out of trees.
Do they die and fall out of trees, or they freeze?
They freeze and paralyze, and you can pick them up and transplant them.
Just put them in the sun. They'll warm back up again, right? That's what they need. They need some sun. They need some sun. Well, that's cool. That's a good choice. Those Sam Adams, I like drinking those over the winter. I'm finishing up. I got some Shiner Bock that I'm kind of finishing up, and this I think you can do kind of all year round. Like it's one of those. They'll have a holiday cheer that's coming out, and it's already in stores. I've seen it already. But so Shiner Holiday Cheer that's coming out. That's a good one. But I haven't bought them yet because I found some really good deals on beer over the last couple weeks. And so I filled the fridge with some I found a good deal on Oktoberfest. So I still have a bunch of those in there. That'll, you can drink Oktoberfest into Christmas, I think.
Sure.
Yeah. So the Christmas holiday
it's still
stuff,
cold beer, right?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I am. Ooh, that's so good. That's what I'm saying. I had some just some regular Coke before, but when you said you were going to get a beer, I'm like, I can't do it without.
Well, when you asked what I was drinking, I was like, ooh, it's just a coffee. So
there we go. There we go. All right, guys. Man, all of a sudden it got really quiet out in the chat room. You guys still alive out there? A few folks checking in, and then Joe said he was doing a blue moon with pineapple and orange.
Oh,
which kind of sounds delightful. And then it died out there. Brian, good to see you. Ken, thanks for checking in. All right, Joe's checking in. Good to see you. We've got some fun stuff tonight. Thanks for coming out. And let me kick this thing off and let's get going. Here we go. This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks, show number 551, recorded on November 3rd, 2022. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios here in a beautiful Bellevue, Nebraska. Although, as I look at my radar, we've got some potential snow in the forecast in the next 24 hours, which is weird. It was 75 degrees, and I was sitting on my deck last night. It's going to be snowing tomorrow, quite possibly. Of course, it's not snowing here, and we appreciate it that you're out listening or listening in the podcast. We'll post a show with some world-class show notes out at theaverageguy.tv. Big thanks to Christian Johnson, who joined us last week. If you missed 550, lots of great conversation, caught up kind of on a little bit of crypto. We spent a little time talking about the PC build. In fact, the board he recommended I bought. So we'll talk about that here at the end of the show, or towards the end of the show. But big thanks to Christian. And of course, big thanks to Maple Grove Partners for their secure, reliable, high-speed hosting. And Christian talked a little bit about that as well. You could still get plans, $10 a month. Great way to do it. MapleGrovePartners.com. Marv Bee, we also know him as Uncle Marv, is here from the IT Business Podcast, and a good friend of the show, and just a good guy to hang out with. Marv, welcome to Home Gadget Geeks.
Well, thanks for having me back.
Good to have you. Last time we checked in, well, you live in hurricane country, and Ivan made its way through. You okay? Everything
Hurricane
okay? Ian.
It did a nice little path through Florida that missed us and missed all of my clients. Unfortunately, it did, do some major damage. So I do know some people that were affected and did lose some housing, but all in all, not as bad as it could have been. But
good.
But yeah, nothing on my end.
We're glad you're safe and all those things around. Of course, it's going to continue to have implications for folks. Much damage down there. We, of course, our thoughts go out to those who were in harm's way during that war, and we're heading into winter, and it's not going to get any more mild. So everybody be safe out there and make sure you're doing the right stuff. Marv, how is the IT Business Podcast going? Last time we talked to you, it was going, maybe just started going, or you'd been doing it just for a couple months, but how's that going?
Yeah, when we talked last, I had just gotten it back into full swing. The podcast was a rebranding of my old podcast called Podnuts Pro, rebranded in January as the IT Business Podcast. I had to take a little hiatus right at the start of the year, right as I was launching, because my mom got sick and went into the hospital, got diagnosed with multiple myeloma, and a couple of weeks where she was in the hospital. So literally we shut down. I did work, but the weekends were traveling to her, which is 2.5 hours away. So, but she's, I'm not going to say that she's all better. She's out of the hospital. She's home, but she's on a situational plan right now where she's going to be in treatment the rest of her life. And
sorry to hear that.
At 71 years of age, or 74. I'm sorry, 74. She's this is her life. So so that's where we were. I had just gotten the show back in full swing, and it's going well now. We've got probably about 80 shows this year already, so we've been cranking them out.
What do you think's for someone who's maybe never heard it before, and you were going to give that quick elevator speech of why they should listen? Like, what would you tell them?
So the IT Business Podcast is basically a show for IT professionals, anybody from computer repair to managed service providers, system administrators, anybody that wants to learn how to do business networking support better, smarter, and faster.
Oh, nicely done. Good job. Way to have that elevator speech ready to go. Have you had any guests that you were particularly like that really did well? I mean, I'm sure they've all been great, but any real standouts in there?
It's funny, the better guest in terms of feedback have actually been lawyers.
Oh.
So we have
really?
yeah. We've got two in particular, one that is down here in my area, and I've had him on the show many times, and then a new girl that we met at a recent conference. And, the IT industry from a managed service perspective, outside IT that is doing services and stuff, a lot of things have changed for us in the last few years with the compliance, HIPAA, NIST, and all of that. And the insurance companies are actually putting more and more responsibilities on us. That if something happens, we're actually going to be held responsible. Whereas before, it was always on the business. And so these attorneys have come on and we've talked about some of those topics. Wow. And, it's weird because those are the ones that I don't think that they're really engaging conversations, but they're topical. Yeah. And there's something like we have got to protect ourselves. Yeah. So those have gotten the most traction, which is odd because I would normally think that tech to tech conversations, are conversations about Synology or network testers.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's the attorneys.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much content out there now. Around some of the, when I started doing this 11 years ago, there were a lot of tech podcasts, but we could cover things that just weren't being covered anywhere else. And now, the stuff we talk about, there's 20 other people on YouTube and there's probably 2 or 3 other podcasts or whatever. So the information is just more accessible, which is fine. I think it allows us to have some great conversations that aren't, I watch a lot of these reviews, and as I've been building this PC, I'm watching all these reviews on YouTube, right? And there's if you say you want to do a 3080 Ti, NVIDIA card, you can literally watch about 50 reviews on those things. Just go one after the other. But there's not community often. And sometimes there is. I don't want to say there's not, but I don't necessarily feel the same community connection that I would, to you guys here. Not good or bad. Certainly those reviews are awesome. And they're very, very helpful in that. It's just a different landscape, right?
It is. And we're trying to do more stuff that focuses on the business side of IT. And, I'll have stories like my podcast two podcasts ago on 453 was about a lady who fell into her business overnight. Her boss literally called her at 8 p.m. and said, "Hey, guess what? Tomorrow morning, the business is yours." And her telling that story and how do you make that transition from tech to business owners. We're having more people on that talk about not necessarily marketing, but like brand imaging. What does it mean, to be a brand? And how do your customers see you and why do they even hire you? So we're kind of taking a little twist on some topics that for, companies that are, either just outsourced, working for businesses, or you're an IT business owner, you're a solo tech and you're trying to get those business clients. This is what they're looking for. So we're trying to do more topics that focus on that.
Yeah. Good. I think it's when you get into a niche, and that's when you get, I think that's when it gets really interesting, because it's not for everybody, but for the folks who are looking for it at the time, that it's very important, and so good for you. Well, I'm glad that's going well for you. I think the last time we had you were at a family reunion and you were coming in remote, right?
I was
the last time there. How'd that go? I know sometimes family reunions can be a little sketchy.
Yeah, but this one was good. It turned out great. It was over the 4th of July weekend. and it was in Kissimmee, Florida. And yeah, I did the podcast from
Yeah.
we didn't get a hotel. We were actually at one of those VRBO places,
Yeah.
and it was all, rental type apartments. So I did it from there, and it turned out to be great. We didn't go to any parks. The family all decided to stay together, and we did stuff there at the complex, and
Oh, good.
turned out good. It was about
Good.
50 of us.
Nice. Yeah, that that's nice when, because like the parks, you're down there in the magic world. And that's a lot. It's a lot of effort to get to those things. That many people. Think about the expense of that as well. So good on you guys. We stayed in a Airbnb. Maybe was that what they are? When we went out to Colorado, and I've always just done hotels, and the kids talked us into this. I was like, oh, I don't know. I mean, hotels are nice, everything's there, you don't know it. And I don't know if I'll go back to doing hotels that way, staying this if we can find this house again open. When we went, they had everything we needed. We cooked, we went to the grocery store, bought food, put it in the fridge. It was way more convenient than a hotel.
Yeah, the one we stayed at was actually, it was almost like, how you see those complexes where there's 4 and 5 buildings. Well, looks like it was meant to be an apartment complex, but it was actually purchased by an organization that they rented out, and we were actually able to get 5 what did they call them? They call them villas, and not even apartments.
Oh,
But
nice.
they were
Yeah.
3-bedroom villas.
Nice.
And it was the whole thing. It was basically an apartment with full living room, full kitchen.
Nice.
So we did all of our stuff there, and we tried to do the hotel, but getting everybody on the same floor is almost impossible. The rooms, you're not going to find a 3-bedroom hotel room.
Right.
So
no, it's a good way to do it. It's a good way to do it. Good. Well, glad to hear it. We are now recording this here. It's November. Let's pretend for a second that it's still October, and it's Cybersecurity Month in October every year. We at Gallup spend a lot of time thinking about that. Our data is super important. We can't have it going somewhere else. During the month of October, CHI Health, which is one of our I think 2 health providers here in the city of Omaha. They didn't really say, but I'm pretty sure they had a ransomware attack, and they went offline for 2 weeks, which my annual physical and my annual prostate exam was during this time. So they were literally doing it on paper, which is a little scary. When I went to have blood work done, the lab tech said, well, which tests are we supposed to do? And I'm like, you think I know? Like, I rely on you guys to know these things. She's like, yeah, well, as you know. And I'm like, so how are you guys doing this? She's like, she said, not very well. Like it's serious business. It'll be interesting to see, they're gonna have to re-input all those records that they generated during those 2 weeks they were down. Plus, I haven't seen even a bill or a statement since I did those things 2 weeks ago. Generally, CHI was very, very fast. So ransomware is the real deal now. And I think everybody knows that, but you said a stat. Is it $1 billion now? Or what was the stat you said to me?
Yeah. So there was a recent study that was put out where U.S. banks reported for 2021 that more than $1 billion in ransomware payments were made. Now, first of all, this is only the ones that are reported.
Right.
So there's a lot that don't get reported. Yeah. But $1 billion, and it was the largest ever on record, of course. And it was an increase. I was trying to find the notes here, but it almost doubled 2020.
Yeah. You're in the trenches with the small business owner, small and medium sized business, SMBs, as Microsoft used to call them. Are they, what is your feeling as far as of course, ransomware folks go after big, but they also probably go after anybody they can get, their attention to. How are you feeling about your small and medium sized business folks in this area?
Well, it's a a long road to hoe, as I like to say,
Yes, it is.
because most of the small businesses are like, you know what? We don't have anything. They're not coming after us. But the problem is they are. They're just throwing seeds out. Just think about it. If you're just throwing stuff in the field, wherever stuff takes hold, and to be able to get 10,000 from a small business, I mean, you get a bunch of those, you get 50 of those, and you're doing pretty good for the year. So it's weird to try to do that, but trying to explain to them how even the smallest business is at risk.
Right.
And there was another thing that I found out. So I subscribe to a thing called the HIPAA Journal because I have HIPAA clients. And also in 2021, only 8% of companies that were hit with a ransomware were able to recover all of their data.
Yikes.
So that's what I tell people is, okay, if you were to lose your data today, how would that affect your business? And most of them, surprising, would be like, well, we'll just go back to paper and pen, like your hospital there. But here's the problem. A lot of them can't do that because they're in situations where a lot of my lawyers, if they lost that data, they're in contempt. They're going to be sued. And a lot of companies will go out of business because they can't reproduce all of that stuff. And the way I tell people is, if you lost all of your photos at your house, how would that affect you? And then translate that to what it would mean for business.
Yeah.
So even though October was, awareness month, most people aren't aware.
Yeah. 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 Well, I think there's awareness or more awareness. Let's put it that way. I think a lot of people don't know what to do about it. Like the average consumer, like you and I and the listeners to this podcast, we're in pretty good shape. We've got our data offsite somewhere, fairly well blocked off from a ransom perspective. I've got all my stuff in a B2 backup that's pretty well protected from any of those kinds of things. If I had a ransomware attack here, I could just shut everything off, reformat it, bring all that stuff back, right? But I think the average consumer, and maybe in some cases the average small business they're not thinking all the way through that, right? They don't know what to do. Don't you think?
Yeah. And what happens is it's really more of convenience, right? I'll do security when it's convenient for me.
Right.
And the other thing that came out in this report was that 18% of organizations in this survey were following the 3-2-1 backup rule.
Yeah, it's not very good.
That's not very good
at
all.
That's not very good.
So it's one of those things where people are like, yeah, I know, but I want to do what's convenient and I want to do what's cost effective for me.
Yeah.
So from a business perspective, I have to fight the cost of backing up that data in that 3-2-1 scenario. And then of course, how far do you keep the backups? When we last spoke, we had talked about, backups where, most people are doing Carbonite or something, and it's only 30 days.
Right.
Businesses sometimes need to have that for compliance reasons, 5 or 7 years. That's a lot of space and a lot of money to keep that data backed up.
Yeah. And it's a lot of time to figure it out. It's a lot of time to set it up. It's a lot of time to implement it. It's a lot of time to test it.
Yes.
But it's also a lot of time when you don't have it. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think sometimes they think like, you can pay me now or pay me later. Right. In that scenario. Right. And so I think we've got to, even down to the individual user, I think we've got to think through some of those. Okay. Well, and a couple comments in chat. Brian says, have you found that the larger fault seems to be between the chair and monitor, right? Or software that has too many security flaws. And, Joe says problem exists between keyboard and chair, right? And absolutely the user, the human is the weak link, right? We know that. So there's kind of two problems here. One is a ransomware, viruses, whatever, being introduced into the system. And That is absolutely a human. We are the weakest link in that, right? Yet there's some software solutions. There's some things people can do, especially at the enterprise level, to make sure even if the human breaks down, that it doesn't get any farther. Location authorization. So if the user is typically in Omaha, Nebraska, this request is coming from Lawrence, Kansas, they throw up flag and go, "Hey, that doesn't seem right." Right? It doesn't have to come from Ukraine or from Russia anymore, like it used to come. Right? That stuff that will come right will look like it's coming here from the United States, but we have smarter systems that kind of know, hey, that user doesn't. That's not typical that user would come in from that location, right? So there's some software, some security things we can do to make that happen. But once it does or once it does get into the system and you're being held ransom, then there's what have you done from a backup perspective?
Right.
Where have you put it? Can you get it back? What's going on with your systems? What does it take to restore? Have you had to do that for any customers? And are you working with customers that are asking you for those kinds of solutions?
So let me answer the second one first, because customers aren't asking for it. They're being told they have to have it. Because I've actually, I think, 4 customers in the last couple of months, they were trying to get their cyber insurance renewed.
Yeah.
And the renewals are saying, okay, in order for you to get renewed, you have to prove that you're doing this, and all of it comes down to all the things we talked about. Are you, password secure, unique IDs, multi-factor authentication? Is there cyber awareness training? Yep. So we've now been asked to provide that cyber awareness training. And I walked into a client today. All I was doing was a site visit for an installation I'm going to be doing this weekend for a new computer, and we're moving some people around. So we wanted to make sure cables were at, locations and stuff. And literally, as I walk in, the receptionist, she's like, "I failed your test." I said, "Excuse me?" And she goes, "Yeah, I opened up an Amazon email and I got redirected for some training." So I had forgot that their phishing simulation is happening right now.
Nice. Actually, we found those to be really, really helpful. And I don't have numbers I can share, but we started over the month, and actually a little bit before the month started, we set some benchmarks, sent those out to the employees, and got a number of like, okay. And they teach us all the time, if you get spam, send it to us. We have a spam email address you can send it to let them know. And then and each time they did it, we got a little bit better as an organization, and the numbers went up. And I think that's what really matters, right? Is that not that you get caught. All right, well, better you get caught on the fake one than a real one, right? But to get really people thinking about that, you kind of want a little bit of that shame, right?
But I mean, in her defense, she actually did a lot of the things you're supposed to do. She actually looked at it and said, I don't remember it. It was an Amazon email. And she said, okay, I did order from Amazon, but I don't know. And she actually hovered over the email address to see if it was legit. The problem was, it said Amazon, but it wasn't really Amazon. So it's one of those things where they're knowing better and better, whereas before they would have never checked the email address. So it's, it's baby steps from here to there that they'll get there.
Well, I think that awareness training is super important. And I think that's even as IT pros for ourselves, listeners to this podcast, generally folks who are in the IT space doing those kinds of things. I think it's important that, families are aware of this. I mean, think of the scenario, kids in the house, connected to all kinds of things, not necessarily thinking about, home security from that standpoint, but it could happen that way as well. And so, do you send phishing emails to your kids as practice? I don't know if you do that, but
no, I haven't done that. But I did have a lady. So I don't do a lot of residential, but I've got some legacy clients that I've known for years. And a lady, she's 87 and still on the computer. And she called up and said that she got one of those pop-ups and Comcast had shut down her internet and there was a number to call. And so she called them and They told her she needed to pay them, $300 and stuff like that. And as she was going through the phone call, she said, "This doesn't sound right. I'm going to shut this down and call my local IT guy." So she called me, brought the computer in. There was no malware, no ransom or anything. It was just one of those internet pop-up windows that you can't close, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's weird, how much training can you do for home users?
Yeah.
But
but maybe, the ransomware takes a certain amount of effort, and so the customer needs to be able to pay a certain amount to make it worth the time. But the scams that go on for individuals, where it's like, hey, they target people who don't know, or older people who just get scared. You can watch these. It's interesting to watch. There's people who go back after the scammers, right?
Right.
And you can kind of get to see how it kind of works. But I wonder what that number is every year of individuals who get scammed for a $300 gift card.
Listen, in Florida, it's high.
Yeah,
it's high.
They got Florida on speed dial, right?
Yeah, they do. So to go back to your other question where you asked if I've had to do that. So I've not had a client hit with ransomware for quite a while. And the last time that I remember having to do any true remediation, this was a client. This is one of my better clients. So this probably explains a little bit of it. We've got them doing snapshots every hour on a local appliance. And that snapshot actually will check file integrity. And so we did get alerted that something had happened, and we were actually able to roll back fairly quickly just to the last hour of data. So they lost, a few minutes of work, but I can't say that that's a normal situation for my clients. Some of them, I know that if they were to have something happen, we wouldn't know until either somebody got to a file they couldn't open, or until the backup ran that night, because they don't want it running during the day. It can't run till 8 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
But we do have, at least now, it wasn't the case years ago, but as of now, every one of our customers has a very nice backup that's local, cloud, encrypted, multiple locations. So I can't say 100%,
right,
but I'm fairly certain that if somebody got hit with something, I can have them back up and running for sure the next day, with their backup.
Yeah, well, it's just a good reminder. You'd mentioned it, but it's good to bring up that even individuals, good right now, even though it's November, not October anymore, but we're in October. We're in November. We are coming up to daylight saving time here in the United States, in most spots around the world. And that's a good reminder, not only to change the batteries in your smoke detectors or carbon monoxide detectors, if you got them. Make sure they're not, this is a new thing too, I didn't realize. Make sure they're not 10 years or older, right? If they're done, you need to replace them at that point. But it's probably a good time to check your backups. It all in this, and maybe check the batteries in your UPS, right? While you're checking your smoke detectors, check your UPS batteries too. Make sure those are still working. Would you add anything else to that, Mark?
No, that's actually pretty good. Especially the batteries in the battery backups.
Yeah.
Although we do that at the beginning of hurricane season. So
when's hurricane season start for you?
June 1st.
Okay. Yeah. It's a good idea. It's just a good idea. Most of them come with some kind of software that you can, the smaller ones don't, but the bigger ones do. And you can connect to them and run a test off them. Most of them also have ways of doing a test on the front. So you can do them that way if you want to do it as well. Those batteries don't last forever. I think I've replaced them a couple times in that as well. It's also I want to say conference season, because it's always something going on with conferences. But now we're kind of back to thinking about, okay, maybe we'll go somewhere else. Any conferences you've gone to or that you're thinking about going to that you found helpful?
So basically, I spent from about February to last month, September, going to conferences. So coming out of COVID, of course, everybody that didn't put on a conference had to put on a conference this year. And so much so that conferences were stacking up on each other. I mean, sometimes 2 and 3 conferences that I'm getting invitations to in the same week, and I'm like, there's just no way. So I was scheduled to be going to 2 more, and I just said I'm done. That's it. So I was out at a conference in Dallas, which was the one where I actually went to Oklahoma City after that conference. So the ASCII group puts on 9 conferences a year, and they're regional throughout the country, so that their hope is that if you're local to one, you'll go to one. But that was the last one in their series of 9. So I went to that conference. I actually did some podcasting live on site there, and that was their ASCII Cup. So it's the big party at the end of the year.
Yeah. What do you get? You feel like you get enough? Like when I was going to conferences, I always walked away like, well, I mean, the parties were great and it was great meeting some people. The sessions always seem to be the struggle. Like, do you feel like you got a lot out of going?
So this year there was a big shift in the presentations. Some of the conferences were putting a much more emphasis on teaching rather than promoting. So the ones that I go to are usually not just tech related, but they're all put on by the vendors. So of course, all the vendors, if they're going to spend that much money, they're going to want to pitch their product and get you to buy. But this year, so there was a conference called TechCon Unplugged. It's a much smaller conference. It was one that I helped start in 2016. It was called the Unconventional back then, because we wanted to do everything anti-conventions. So we had no vendors,
right?
And all the presentations were put on by us, techs and business owners helping each other. So that has morphed into TechCon, and it is more breakout session based, where you're doing, sessions where, for instance, we had sessions on pricing. We had a gentleman got up and teach us about Wi-Fi 6 and how they do deployment. He's deployed about 1,000 Wi-Fi endpoints. Talked about the differences between Wi-Fi 5 and Wi-Fi 6. We had an office manager talk about how she does her billing and accounting and receiving and all that stuff. So these are all things that if you go to the big conferences, you're not going to get those.
Yeah.
So that was a much better thing this year. So I got more out of conferences than I normally do.
That's good
because of those sessions.
Yeah. I ran the Oracle users group in Omaha. A couple hundred of us in that. We'd always have a twice a year have a conference, and it was vendor sponsored. And you're right, it was hard to get, for the vendors, for what they got to pay, or for what they paid, they get a spot to speak. But we then would try to take the money they paid and then not reimburse, but award actual users who would come and speak with a monetary. You'll get, hey, if you speak, you'll get $100 gift card or whatever for speaking, so that you would, kind of Robin Hoodish, take from the rich and give to the poor. And that kind of helped. And it's still, the vendors would still get, and we also identified vendor sessions. So folks knew, okay, this is going to be a vendor session, or made them put their company in there so they knew. And we'd tell them not to sell, but it's hard, it's hard in that scenario for that, but had good luck with it either way. I love your unconference idea. I think in the early days of the unconference, you'd get there with no speakers, and you'd spend that first hour, right? Okay, what do we want to do? And then people vote on them, and then you assign them out, and then off you go to your conference, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Is that the way it works? Yeah.
So they were good. The let's see what else is happening in the. So I'm going to be a presenter at the next Podfest.
Oh, nice.
I won't be on like a main stage or anything, but I'll be doing. I forget what the name of the session is, but I'll just be doing a quick little session at Podfest. So that's another conference that I just went to for the first time this past year, where I get to learn about stuff that we're doing here now.
Yeah, and that's down there in Florida, right?
Yep, it's in Orlando.
Yeah.
The conference capital of the world.
Well, why shouldn't it be? It's the weather's great all the time. Although in the middle of the summer, it's really hot.
Yeah.
Well, we're back at it. It'll be interesting to see. I had a meeting today and told my manager, it's like, You know, I'd rather go, we have opportunities. We run conferences around the world. And I was almost like, I'd rather do our conferences than you send me to another. Like, I've done a ton of those kinds of conferences. I'm more interested in going hanging out with our customers. Now, I work with our customers every day, so that seems to make sense, right? But I think there's hopefully we've learned a few things through the pandemic, and we're not just kind of going back, and maybe we're going back to the way it was before. But Brian says in the education realm, there certainly has been a big influx of in-person sessions too. There's certainly a lot of qualities from in-person that are missed virtual, and I think that's true and false. Like, I think there's a lot of efficiency in learning. I learned a ton during the pandemic, because I could consume it all here. I think we miss the in-person is really, really important though, right? Being around each other.
I can tell you this. So right now we're getting a lot of invitations for virtual conferences that are 2 days, 3 days. And I'm like, I cannot be sitting in front of a Zoom camera for that long.
Yeah, right.
I'll go to a conference because I can do other things and stuff. So if they can get those back to what they were, maybe do a 1 or 2 hour session, then I'd be okay with it. But I think it's the same as remote work. We're kind of, it's a weird period right now where some people are tired of working from home and want to get back in the office. Businesses are like, get your butt back in. And others are like, I'm never going back to the office.
Yeah.
And
No, we're battling with that now a little bit. And I was in a few days this week, and I'll be home tomorrow. And it works. It kind of works that way. And we're certainly in a flux. So
So let me ask you a question. You said you were putting on those conferences and stuff. So what types of conferences were those, and how did you arrange it, or I guess kind of like MC it?
Well, I like to MC that kind of stuff. So it worked out really well because I didn't have to fight anybody for that job. I was like, I'm in charge. I'm doing the MC work. So I enjoyed that. It was a 1-day conference. It would start at 9. It would go till 4. Because the Oracle space just has a ton of vendors, we would get anywhere. We'd promote to the vendors, hey, we're doing this user group meetup for $500, whatever it was. I can't forget what it was now. Although I did know I charged enough that when I left the group, I left him a surplus. Like, there was like $4,000 in the bank when I left the group. It was, it actually, the user group made money, which I don't know if we were supposed to, but we did. So, we meet the vendors and say, hey, it's $500. You get a session and a table at our, we would do like a vendor hall kind of thing, wherever it was at, whatever we had available to them. And there was some ground rules, right? And then from the city of Omaha, we just invite, and for the users, it was always free. And then we would use that money to buy food. Lunch was covered. So you want to encourage the users to come. So we'd always cater in some kind of cool lunch. And, we'd run, I tried a couple different formats. Sometimes we'd run as many as 6 breakouts at a time, and to give, kind of depend on the attendance and how many speakers that I had. But we would run different breakouts, knowing some of the breakouts would be small. And in some cases, it's not bad if you had 3 or 4 people. Those are 3 or 4 people who are really interested in the topic that person had, right? Very niche topics, not, why you should buy Oracle, but, Oracle EBS 12 financials for lawyers type thing, these really niche-y kind of discussions. So we'd maybe like do a keynote. I'd have a big keynote speaker come, everybody'd be together, and then maybe 2 breakout sessions, come back together for lunch, at lunch keynote, 2 more sessions, a closing keynote, and that'd be the end of the day.
All right. It was interesting. I was definitely interested to see if you did the keynotes, because a lot of the conferences where we didn't have keynotes were probably the better ones. Only because in our industry, I think the larger the conference, the more they feel they have to bring in, a big name. And there's a lot of times that keynote speaker doesn't match the vibe of the conference.
Yeah. We had that happen a couple times. You're right. Because it was Oracle, we would let Oracle have the morning keynote. We'd say to them, "Hey, send somebody, interesting, please," type deal. We did. Eventually, we found a guy. Joe Thomas was his name. He was out of San Francisco. We just kept asking him back because he was interesting, and so in that case, we would try to let the software company be the opening keynote, so to speak. And then the closing keynote would either be somebody we'd pick, or they'd pay a little bit more to have the closing keynote, right? Maybe pay $1,000 instead of $500 to have everybody at that point. They would want things like email addresses and some of those other, in exchange for that. And we never give them to them. We'd say, "No, you can't. You can get them at the sessions. You can ask for them, but we're not going to give you. We're not going to give you a list." And they'd always say,
"That's interesting."
Yeah.
Because ours, we always end up giving the list, and it always. I don't know who. If they hear, they hear. It sucks getting back to the office and having those vendor calls.
Yeah.
No.
And
the sad part is we took a couple today where, I met with Marvin at such and such. And I'm like, you lie.
Yeah.
You lie.
Yeah, that's why we didn't. That's why we wouldn't let them do it. They could collect them in their sessions if they wanted to, if people wanted to give it to them. And then we do giveaways, and that was an opportunity for them. You might need to sign up for the giveaway or something like that. Yeah. It just kind of depends. So people had a choice. They didn't have to give them. We weren't giving it as part of the conference, and we just found that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed doing that, so it was good. We may employ some when we do the meetup here in Omaha. We may deploy some of those same tactics, but keep it fun, right? From that standpoint. Did that answer your question? Did you get anything out of that?
Yeah, I mean, there's others that I can ask, but we'll be off topic.
Yeah, no, right on. It's almost like a whole different life. That was, I don't know, 10 years ago now. And I feel like, did I really do that? That seems like such a long time ago. Well, what's not a long time ago is Black Friday. And I know it's only the 1st, or it's the 3rd of November, but it's going to be Black Friday before you know it. The podcast 2 weeks ago, Christian was on, and I had some hardware I was looking at buying, and he said, "Don't buy too much just yet." And I think Bob and Ryan from thinkcomputers.org also said that, see what comes up on Black Friday. So Marv, as you think about what you've seen, I'm sure you've been watching some of the deal. What are you seeing out there from what do we have to look forward to, do you think?
Well, it's weird because there is a big push that Black Friday isn't just Black Friday anymore. Wow. It's almost Black November. So there are already companies out there, advertising, deals. And so I've kind of poked around and stuff. But what I'm trying to do is save a lot of it, because I probably didn't tell you this, but on my podcast, I'm going to be doing a Black Friday preview. And on Wednesday morning, Wednesday the 23rd, and it might be a full 2 hours of the show where we're going to have some people come on, and we're going to talk about a lot of the products. And what's funny is, I just bought this here.
What is that?
Which is
for our audio
it's an outlet that also has USB built into it. And I just got this the other day because I was scrambling. So as part of my tech travels, having those battery packs were a problem, because I wanted one that could power my mixer by USB. And I thought, I've been getting these, in the bigger strips. And so I went and got one of these just to carry around in my laptop notebook bag. And so I'm looking at all of these types of gadgets that both would work for the home geek and the business geek, because there's a lot of times where, I was at the last conference I was at, I'm sitting there doing my stuff, and guys beside me, their phones are dying, and they left the cord in their room or in their car and stuff. And I'm like, hey, but just pull this out and plug in and go. So there's all those types of techie things that as we the more and more we use our phones and our tablets, even though they're supposed to have longer battery life, we're using them too much. So we need little things like that to just always be able to power up wherever we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and as we're traveling again, we're getting back into those situations. You might be in a airport, and listen, there's a lot more plugins at airports than there used to be. But I remember the days where there weren't very many, and so I'd always carry one of those 3-in-1. You can plug it in, you get 3 ports, and I always say,
Yeah.
"Hey, can I plug this in and share it with you?" And they'd always say yes, right? A great opportunity to do that. Those kinds of things. I'm seeing a lot of, fire. If you were ever going to buy a Fire tablet, the probably Black Friday is the time to do it. If you were going to upgrade your A-Lady device, your Amazon device, Black Friday is probably the time to do it, right? I mean, I get that feeling, don't you?
I do, but do you get the feeling that we're kind of in a phone frenzy right now?
Yeah, that may be the truth too.
I
Yeah.
mean, I kind of wonder that phones might be the big winner this year as
Mhm.
everybody's, the foldable Samsung
Right, right,
is out.
right.
And I wonder how, iPhone has announced that they're going to go universal with their power plug with the
Oh,
USB-C, but the next set of phones are still going to be Lightning. So I wonder how that's going
yeah,
to affect
yeah.
things.
Yeah, no, I think you might be right. I think this may be the time everybody's coming out of the pandemic and they're thinking like, well, maybe it's time to replace the pandemic phone. The one they
Yeah,
bought at the beginning, like, oh crap, I got to get home and I'm going to need something to have in my hand all the time.
yeah,
Um, yeah, what Joe says, they were, and I think the EU is really driving Apple to make that change, right? So,
they
thank
are.
goodness, finally, I'm an Apple guy. Um, I am, we've been talking about this build again. I've got some parts I'll show here just in a few minutes, but I have been one of the things I did is I've been looking for parts because everybody encouraged me to just wait, and it's been hard, Marv. I'm not going to lie, it's been hard. It's been hard to wait for this Black Friday stuff because I want to buy now, but what I did is to go to Amazon and I've started putting, so I still need a GPU. I still need an SSD. I need memory for this thing. So those are kind of the 3 components that I'm still that I've put in my Amazon cart, because what I didn't realize, if you leave items in your Amazon cart and the price change, when you come back and check it, it'll tell you,
It'll tell you. Yep.
which is kind of cool, right? Now, I haven't seen any big swings in this, but I'm kind of imagining maybe these GPUs will swing. I've actually seen them go up in price, not down, but we'll see how that goes.
Well, I'm
But
wondering if how good is the inventory right now? Remember a year ago, you couldn't find them.
yeah, well, and if I wanted to buy used right now, I can get them I can get them $200 under the current retail. So they're super cheap. Now, they were miners. So, or chances are they were mining, right? Those GPUs.
Right.
But what I'm kind of doing then is I kind of use Honey on these, now owned by PayPal, which has been, I think, a recent acquisition from PayPal. But I use Honey on them to give me alerts, and I've also put in alerts for, like, I think I'm buying a 360 Ti. So I've put in that alert over at Slick Deals, so I get these emails, just kind of watching. Because I'm watching every day, it's giving me some good ideas. Like, I'm going to want to pay somewhere between 450 and 550 for this 360 Ti. That's the price range I want to be in. And then I've got a couple gigabyte and Asus that I'm looking at, so I'm kind of keeping those in mind. Now, you know the deal. As soon as you buy something, right, Marv, it always is cheaper somewhere else.
Right.
Right.
So I was trying to look. So are all of those 8 gig
Yeah, these are
cards?
all 8 gig V2 um, uh, 360 Ti cards. I do have one 360 12 gig in there. That's under 4 at this point if I wanted to go that route. But I think I've
Yeah.
made that decision. I'm going to go with the Ti on those. So it's, you got to kind of check the madness on this. I watch these things like, so Christian recommended this board when we talked last. So this is the Tough Gaming. It's the X570 Pro from Gigabyte. or no, I mean from Asus. Sorry, right up there in the corner. And this is the kind of the one we talked about. I bought it for $220, which was the Amazon price the night we did it. And then, well, so I said to Christian, you think I should wait? And he said, yeah, you should totally wait. The next morning when I woke up, that board in my Amazon cart was $257.
Wow.
I was like, ah. So I found it. I thought, okay, it's going up. I'm going to pull the trigger on this thing. I found it at all places at Walmart for $219, and their prices don't seem to move as fast.
Yeah. So yeah, Walmart, BH Photo, some of those other places are beating Amazon right now. It's kind of interesting that you say that. So I just purchased a WD Black SSD drive, and I got.
You know which one you got? What's the model on that?
It is the SN770.
Okay.
NVMe.
Okay. So. Yep. Okay.
But it's only 1 terabyte, and I got it. It was $89.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder how much lower they can go on those for Black Friday.
Well, that's the thing. Like, you know, and then you buy it, and then it's like the law of Black Friday is, even on a Black Friday deal, the next day you find it cheaper somewhere else, and you're just like, right, you know, type deal. So I probably am going to focus at this point, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to buy this 360 Ti, which is about $500. Pretty sure I'm going to go 128 gig of RAM. That's another $400. And so I'm thinking I probably don't want to drop $1,000 all at the same time unless I get two really great deals, right? So I have to choose between one or the other. And I think the GPUs are where I'm going to go.
Now, how are you looking at compatibility for these? Are you using PC Part Picker?
Well, I know these 360s will be just fine with the board that I have.
Okay, so, but what about the memory?
Now when I do the memory, I am making sure I know the specs of the board, and then I'm making sure that the memory that's going to be buying memory is going to be a whole different exercise when I get down to it. I've identified some already, but it's still a little bit of work just to make sure the compatibility is there with them. You're absolutely right. I need to keep my eyes open and check for that as well. But I think everything I have in my cart right now, I checked already, and it's compatible. So I think I'm in good shape there. And if it's not, I can send it back.
Yeah, I just went through that. So I purchased a bunch of parts thinking I was going to have to build a server.
Yeah, you got that board right there. You got to don't you? Why don't you show that? What'd you get?
So I got this gigabit.
Pull it back a little bit for me.
Let me see here.
There we go. A C246 WU4.
Yeah. Now this is, I don't think many people will go after this, even though it's a server/workstation motherboard. I got it because I got this Xeon processor. And I want to get the Xeon processor. This is, I think it's 16 cores, because I was going to build this as a RDS server. And I needed it to support 30 users.
Yeah. You were building server equipment.
Yeah. So and I did this about 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And I got all frustrated because I bought the processor and the fan separate. And the fans were too big for the case. And then it was a huge exercise to find the right fan to fit. So this time I bought the processor and the fan. Then I bought the board. And that's where I used the PC Part Picker.
Did you buy? And I was using that early for that. That's a good reminder to go back to that again. Did you get memory for it? And how much memory what's the board support, and how much would you put on it?
So I'm only putting on 128.
Only? It's a server. I get it. No, I get it.
So I got two of these. These are Corsair.
I was looking at those as well. Yep.
Yeah. So this is the 2x16 gauge. So I got two of these, 3264, and then I'll do up to I start with 64, but I'll go to 128 if there's going to be any issues.
Do you remember for 64 about the price point on that?
Actually, I think I just had this up because I was looking at something else. This was, yep, $78
Yeah.
for the 2x16.
Yeah.
A
Okay.
32 gig kit.
Yep. Yeah, it's about right now. So for those, about $75 to $100 for
32.
Yeah, 230, 232s,
2x216s.
216s. Okay. Now that's well, I don't want to get in because that's super boring audio to go into that, but certainly certainly I've been kind of, I don't know if there'll be, I mean, I guess I'm going to kind of wait and see if there'll be any Black Friday specials on memory. I'm thinking the hard drives might drop too. That Western Digital has kind of been clearing out. They've been offering some big discounts on some stuff. And so I'm thinking maybe if I could get that, I've got the SN850. So the version just up from yours. I'd get that 1 terabyte instead of, what'd you pay 98 for it? Is that what you said?
For the
89. 89 for the 850. It's 150. So not quite twice as much, 30% more, whatever. But I'm kind of hoping that gets down like at 120. For me, it's a buy right at that point. If it drops to 120, I'm just going to buy it.
Yeah, I'm going to be watching hard drives. I've got a couple of Synology builds that we're going to be doing. So the 12 terabytes is what the one customer needs. And we're going to try to, we're getting a bigger unit. We're getting the 12 bay Synology.
Oh, nice.
We're going to start with 12 terabytes in there to start them up. And then another client, we're actually doing a virtual server on the Synology. So I'm going to use the Western Digital SSD drives for that.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. Yeah, you've liked that Synology brand, haven't you?
I am all in on Synology. I don't know if you remember when I asked you about, well, I hear about this Unraid.
Mm-hmm.
We were gonna go down that route. I had TrueNAS I was looking at, but what it boiled down for me was simplicity when it comes to the business clients and the support.
Yeah.
That if I ever ran into an issue, not that anything's wrong with the other two, but I wasn't going to get that corporate support.
Yeah.
That I would need.
Yeah. And easy because they may not be on the exact same product, but you know who to go to.
Right.
Right. And you know how to get support from them. So
yep. And there's a ton of apps. Yeah. Built in the Synology.
Yeah.
I mean, I just, between first it was just the backup stuff. Then I did a surveillance camera system. Now I'm running, virtual servers on them now. Yeah. So playing with all of that. And I just downloaded the Synology Photos app.
Yeah.
So I'm doing my photos on there.
Yep. Yeah. And most of those, Drobo had one. When I had a Drobo, you can do that to the cloud. You can, there's those services, but that's really nice, right? So it automatically, you take a picture, it automatically moves it to the Synology. Yeah. That's super cool. It's a great way to get it done.
Doing a 365 backup for a client just started on Monday.
Oh, nice.
So
yeah, there's a lot. Do you give the user any access to the dashboard and the apps, or do you pretty much hide that from them?
No.
Yeah.
All they get is their access to the stuff they need for either that server or the files.
Yeah.
And
have you had any ask like they think they're IT people and they're like, oh, I want to let me help. Did you get that?
Yeah, I have. But what's great about the Synology is you can actually give access just to the apps they need. So nice. I've got one where there's an office manager and a tech on site. They want to have access to the backups. So I just give them access to that and nothing else.
And how are they authenticating to the Synology?
So in that office, it's actually AD because I added the Synology to the domain. So they're authenticated through their Active Directory.
Yeah.
All my other clients, well, most of my other clients, we're just doing the Synology directory server.
Okay.
So they're just set up on as a user on the Synology.
Email and a password. Is that kind of the or a username and a password?
Username and a password. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Is that AD integration on Synology pretty easy or?
Super easy.
Oh, good. Okay.
Literally, you just add it to the domain.
Never said
And
by anything about Active Directory, by the way.
I know I was quite surprised when I did it. You add the Synology to the domain, and then all of a sudden, all the domain groups, everything is there.
Yeah, you almost want to break it just to prove that it worked. But that was too easy. I need to do some things
Yeah.
to prove that they actually got it done. Brian in the chat says I asked, what are you looking forward to on Black Friday? He says, I'm not looking forward to anything in particular. Sometimes I look out for discounted gift cards. By the way, this is a great thing to do during this time of year. A lot of local restaurants, or sometimes they'll say, hey, come in and buy a $50 gift card and we'll give you 10 or 15 bucks, right, of your own. And it's not a bad way. I mean, if it's a place that you really like and you want to share that with others, it's a great way to do it. He says Black Friday makes good gifts and money go a little bit farther. So, that's a good. Have you ever done that, Marv, where you bought a gift card for somebody else, but you got another gift card that you got to keep?
So we did that one time, and I don't even remember the name of the card, but it was one of those where you could buy the gift card and it would work for, 10 different restaurants or whatever.
Yeah.
So we did do that one time, but I haven't thought to do that.
Yeah.
Recently.
Applebee's is notorious for this. They just make a killing off of this. And the other thing, end of year, we are, Gallup would allow us sometimes to buy gift cards and expense them for recognition. And so you could, go buy go buy the gift card with company money, and then you'd get the other gift card back, be able to use that. And they were like, that's cool,
Huh,
and
nice.
you kind of think, I get to expense this. So gift cards can be interesting to see if we with restaurants trying to get people to come back, and restaurants have kind of gotten price sensitive, knowing everybody's complaining about how expensive everything got all of a sudden. It's starting to see a little competition kick in with restaurants and stuff where they're, trying to combat that a little bit.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword though, because we're fighting a lot of stores can't keep staff. So the service, people have to know that food's going to take a little longer to get to you.
Mm-hmm.
So that dining experience has definitely changed.
Yeah, it has for sure. Well, I tell you what, it's kind of changed our way of like dinner, where pre-pandemic we probably went out 3 nights a week, in some form or fashion. Could have been fast food or Chinese or pizza, but we were still going out, right? And now it might be one, and some weeks maybe not even that. And you just kind of go, I don't know. I mean, we could go out and drop, $40 pretty fast. You're like, and listen, buying food at the grocery store hasn't gotten any cheaper either. So, it's hitting everybody all the way around.
Yep. I was just trying to look for a story that when you talked about going out to eat, we of course had a Florida man story down here where a guy attacked an Uber driver because his food was late or something like that. I mean, just
oh my gosh,
stupid stuff.
Yeah, people, friends, and not my listeners, because I know you guys are pretty calm, but friends, let's all take a deep breath. Like,
yep.
Here in the United States, of course, next Tuesday is voting day, and it's hot and contested, and I hope we have a smooth day. Woo, so everybody relax.
I do mine by mail, so I'm done.
I should have. I didn't. We did our primaries that way this year, and then I just didn't get around to ordering the absentee ballot, and so now I've got to go. Yeah, it's Nebraska, so it's not going to be that bad. But yeah, that's we got. I hope next Thursday we're not shooting each other. So it could be we live in interesting times. Let's just put it that way.
Yes, we do.
So we do indeed. Marv, anything else when we think of Black Friday? Anything else you're hoping that you'll acquire during the Black Friday, or even from a Christmas perspective?
Well, I think that'll be the thing, is to try to look for, the wife is going to be making a list, because I don't know, we have like 30 people we got to buy stuff for our Christmas. And so I'm going to sit with her and make a list, and, you know, whatever's on sale is what we're buying.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of sales. I do think even with inflation raging, I think there's going to be a lot of sales out there. The question will be the quality.
Right.
Right. I think we're going to see some questionable quality stuff come out of this cycle where you think you're getting it cheaper. Not sure you're getting the quality you would have gotten a couple years ago.
Well, I remember reading some advice that even on Amazon or wherever you get your stuff, stick with the name brands that you know.
Yeah.
Don't buy, and especially with electronics, we have so many names that have popped up that, look like the genuine thing, but it's a knockoff, and it's, 50% or whatever. And most of the time it's fine. But right now, I don't know if I trust it.
Yeah. If it's too good to be true, right? They say it probably is. And so probably some good. I think after this computer build, I think I'm done for a while, and I might clear out some stuff. Like I'm feeling a little bloated, and it's just like, all right, it's time to, I'll probably get this thing built, and then the first of the year start moving things that were on other computers onto the new one, build a VM or do something different, and then decommission. I got a bunch of old equipment. I'll probably
Now, I remember I didn't catch the entire show where you were talking about it, but you had tried to talk about all the things that you're going to move from your old computer to the new computer and stuff. Now, is it fully spec'd out? The drive size that you're getting? Do you know all the things you're going to need peripheral wise to connect?
Yeah, I think I'm okay in that space. I think I got it kind of figured out. And there's a lot of stuff I do that I don't need to do, and it just needs to stop. A lot of the crypto stuff that I've been doing, I think I'm to the end of it where it's like, yeah, I don't know if I need all these hard drives anymore. I mean, I have 84 terabytes of hard drive space, and it would be cool to keep it, but I don't know if I just need that much. I probably could get away with 10, just to be honest.
I mean, how much of your stuff is duplicated?
Well, my own data duplicated pretty well, right, from that. But most of the hard drive space I don't use for storage. I use it for crypto, right? I use it for nonces in the crypto stuff that I'm doing. So, you think, oh, that's a lot of storage space. Well, I only really have about 2 terabytes of data, maybe 3, with all the podcasting stuff. So I don't have a lot anyways.
Right.
And I keep a local copy, and I keep a, I've got a copy on my Mac. I got a copy on my Moro data box, and I've got a copy B2 backup, and I'm good. At that point, I've got everything that I need. So,
has your crypto stuff slowed down?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So that gold rush is over.
Yes. Yep. The hills are picked clean, so to speak. The mines are a little, it's just not what it was, and it was okay. It was fun to do, and so the good news is I can sell those hard drives. I got a bunch of 4 terabyte hard drives. I can clear them out for 20 or $25 each, whatever. Get rid of them, move them on. So yeah, I think some of that stuff. I think I'd like to get down to maybe two Windows computers and a Mac, and consider that everything. Today I have 5. So yeah.
You still going to have your 6 monitors or 8 monitors?
Oh, let's not get crazy. Are you kidding me? Yes. Let's not get crazy, Marv. Jeez. You're questioning me on that. How dare you? How dare you question me on monitors? I might add another one actually, because I've got this 34-inch ultra wide here that I use for the Mac, which is just perfect. But I think for the Windows box, I may get another one that's 4K. And because I want to do some gaming and I want to do Flight Simulator on it, and I want to do some other things I want to do on it. So I may upgrade that monitor, which I can't throw away other monitors, so they'll just get redeployed somewhere else.
Okay, now how are you running your monitors? Are you running all of those off the card, or are you doing adapters?
No,
Because the
so
360 Ti only has 4 outputs, right?
yeah, well, so 3 of the monitors are work monitors that come off of a docking station that
Okay.
support 3 monitors plus the laptop, right? So that's 4 right there.
Okay.
And then I have a Windows box, 4700, that has 2, and I don't even, I used to have GPUs in there, but I took those out and sold them when the prices were so nuts. Got rid of those. So those are coming off the ones off the motherboard. Yeah, there's a
Okay.
DVI and a VGA. Works perfect. The Mac just has one monitor, this ultra wide. Then I have a Surface that's powering a 24-inch monitor that I have in portrait that has weather full time on it. It keeps my radar is up full time on it. So yeah, so no one computer. I'm not trying to run all 9 monitors off of one computer. But I use what do I use? Let's see, what's the name of this program? I use how about I show it to myself so I know what it is. Synergy. I use
Okay.
Synergy Pro, which goes across both Windows and Mac to share a keyboard. So it's KVM, right? Virtual KVM solution. So I have one keyboard and mouse for them all.
All
But yeah. So it kind of allows me to offload some processing too, so not one computer is doing everything.
Well, you see the comment where you need a monitor wall.
Oh, for
So
sure, Jay. Yeah, are you kidding me? That's kind of like that. Oh.
I'm surprised you don't have one behind you for the podcast where you
Those
can
would be,
have
I
stuff
used to.
scrolling.
I used to
You
have
did?
2. Yeah, early, a couple years ago. I had 2 right here. I actually have 2 monitors here that for work I could have on. I never found them to be like, I would do it for a while and I'd be like, yeah, that's kind of distracting behind me. My Surface RT, which isn't even turned on, but it's right here. You can kind of see it on the shelf that's there. Yeah, I tried doing the monitor wall thing behind me and I was like, nah, that's not as interesting as I thought it would be. I thought it'd be cool, not so much. I like the monitors in front of me as opposed to behind me. So what happened is I'd have them behind me and then I'd want to use them for something. So I'd take them down, put them in front of me because I was like, okay, I want to move this process to this monitor and have it on there all the time.
You're right.
So yeah, I'd love like 16 of the same size monitors all on the wall that were all in different, maybe curved around me, or one of those 55-inch curved that I'd put in portrait mode that would go this way, like circle, but 2 of them it's a sickness. Yeah, it's a sickness.
You need to have that 3D surround sound with it too, right?
Yeah, sound I don't care about as much.
No?
No, but I just love, like, the over to the left here, my radar runs on a portrait, which runs really like, it's got a forecast center in it, so I can see all this stuff, right? It runs really well in portrait mode, and then the Surface has the Home Assistant dashboard on it for all of the, and they're both in dark mode, and so like I can turn my monitors, just from here. I can turn my monitors on and off, turn all my lights on and off, because it's all right here on the Home Assistant, kind of thing. So like, I can turn the studio lights off. You can't really see that in my picture, but those are controlled right here. Like the garage, most of the lights down here, I can turn on and off. Yeah, it's a sickness.
Yeah, I still have none of that at the house.
Well, it's not such a bad thing.
Although I am thinking about it here, though. I am thinking about being able to do stuff from here.
It's super handy to go into the garage and say, hey, lady, turn on the garage light. Boop, comes on. That's kind of nice to be able to, or when I come in the house to be able to say, hey, lady, shut the garage door because I forgot, and down it goes, and you're like, oh,
Yeah, that'd be cool. I'm just right now, I think my next step is to get those automated light sensors that when you enter a room, the lights come on, and when you leave, they go off. That's big for me.
Yeah, don't do it in the studio because you'll be sitting there and then the lights will go off. Because you'll be podcasting and your lights will go off, and then you got to go.
Yeah,
and then they come back on. So don't do that. That when they built the studio for me at Gallup, I said you can do anything you want, no automation on the lights. I want them on or I want them off.
Yeah. That's for home. Here, I won't do that.
Yeah. No, you don't want to do that. But it is kind of cool. We've got some routines like on the front door light. We have a paneled or a stained glass window in our front door. And so when it gets dark, it automatically turns the light on behind it to 50% and illuminates the door. And in the morning, when the sun comes up, it goes off. That's kind of
you
a nice.
Illuminate your door.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, is that for like when you drive home at night? It's on.
So my neighborhood can enjoy my front door. I mean, it's stained glass. Why would I want to hide it? So, and the light is super efficient, right? It's just an LED light. So, but we only set it at 50%. So it's not like I'm burning that much power with it.
Now, do you have, we're so over it. Do you have ground lighting as well?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't.
Because that's what the wife wants. She wants all of those ground lights that we can control and the different lights and then the party lights in the back. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, I should have that I should have the party lighting on my deck where I can, do those kinds of things. But I just bought Christmas lights and stapled them up. And I think, well, that'll give me 5 or 6 years. And they're like $7 on clearance at the end of the year.
Yeah, we did those around our patio as well on the inside, but she wants them outside. She wants to do around the pool.
Yeah.
And
you should do it for her, Marv. You should do it for her. She deserves it.
She got the pool.
The lights, the mood lighting is great though. We were just out. We're having the spectacular weather ends tonight, but for the last couple of days, we've had 75 at 7:00 at night, and I've just been enjoying the time on the deck, right? And so last night we went out there and turned all the lights off, but just brought up the deck lights, under lighting, deck lighting, and it was just beautiful, So don't underestimate the power of lighting, of mood lighting around the pool. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So we'll do that.
Okay. Yeah. Don't spend a ton of money on it because it's just going to break anyway. So that's one of those areas where I don't want to say as cheap as possible, but I do kind of go as cheap as possible on those. And then they'll break. Don't get frustrated. Rip them down a couple years later, maybe 4, 5, 6, and then replace them with something else cheap.
Well, we got to figure something out because we do have some lighting out already with came with the house, but they were electrical outlets that we put the photocentric lights so that they're on. So as soon as it gets dark, they all come on.
Yeah.
So I want to take that power because we have outlets on those lights as well. And when I get light poles, but I want to put those in sturdy so I don't have to worry about taking them down or a hurricane taking them down. So they're going to be, they're going to be like, those telephone light poles.
Yeah.
And then we'll do lighting from there.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure it'll be great. I'm sure it will be great. Just put in, like building a computer, just make sure you plan it, then let it sit for a few days, then go back and say, okay, is there anything I forgot? Because if you go to wire that stuff, if you're going to add any wiring or you want to add any power out there, I mean, if you're running wiring, you should just run power because you never know. Put outlets on those things. It's kind of nice to have it out there. You think, why would I ever use this? But there may be a day when you're out in the yard and you're like, man, I wish there was an outlet out here, So, well, Marv, thanks again for coming on. I appreciate it. Always great to catch up with you and always great to, to spend some time with you. Erin Lawrence, we're working on maybe getting her on your show here. Not confirmed just yet, but we're working on it. Would that be for the Black Friday one? When is that again?
That would be for the Black Friday on.
And when is it and where's it going to be at?
Wednesday, November 23rd. And if you head over to the YouTube channel or Facebook, just type in IP Business Podcasts. We stream live to YouTube and the Facebook. And I don't think I'm going to have it ready, but we're working on doing an Amazon Live as well.
Oh, nice.
Because we're an Amazon affiliate, but I don't know if I can get that set up because I don't have time to play with it. But I will be putting out announcements both on the website, itbusinesspodcast.com, and on all my social media channels.
Cool. Cool. Yeah, get out there, be a part of it, come and see it. Next week, I'll have Dave from Mac Geek Gab on, and well, it'll be an all Mac show. You have a Mac now, don't you? How's that?
I do.
How's that going? You doing all right? You using it a lot?
It's sitting over here to my right.
Yeah.
Probably hasn't been open in a couple of weeks, but I have it.
All right. It's good. You have a new update waiting for you when you
Oh, really?
open that thing back up. It's actually a beautiful update. One of the things it allows too with an iPhone is you can now remotely use the camera on your iPhone to podcast with. So, I used Ecamm software to get that done before, and I always had to plug it in. Now you can just use your iPhone, put it on a mount, somewhere on your monitor, and use it as a webcam.
Okay, because that was one of the things when I started looking at the Amazon Live.
Yeah,
you have to download the app. It's not like you can just connect a webcam and stream.
Oh,
so it's an app. So if I can connect the phone to the Mac, and then that makes me feel
you have an
better.
iPhone?
Yes.
Yeah. Look into it. You have to have the most current version on both. I haven't done it yet, but Ed did it. Ed Sullivan did it for me on Sunday.
All right.
And I was like, that's interesting. So, and you have to be on the same Wi-Fi network, of course, to make that work. But give it a try. Super good. Right. Well, we are live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern out here at theaverageguy.tv. If you want to join us in our Discord group, head out to theaverageguy.tv/Discord. If you want to leave a message for me, homegadgetgeeks.com. There's a little microphone button. Just leave your message. Then email me, jim@theaverageguy.tv, and let me know you did that, because I don't check that as often because you guys just don't really leave messages, but it's in my notes. So I'll say it anyways. Big thanks to Christian as well over there, Maple Grove Partners at maplegrovepartners.com. Secure, reliable, high-speed hosting from people that you know and you trust. And of course, that's Christian. And if you need hosting on just about anything, give them a ring. maplegrovepartners.com. Nobody calls anymore. Send them an email. We want to thank you if you're listening live. We want to thank you for coming out and for hanging out with us tonight. We officially start the holiday season. I know that Halloween's a holiday, but I don't think it really counts. We officially start the holiday season in the United States now. Thanksgiving coming up, Christmas, Black Friday, all the good stuff is coming. Stay safe, my friends. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.
Good night.
Marv, thanks again. I won't hold you. Live listeners, I'm going to let you guys go. We'll see you back here next week again. Dave from Mac Geek Gab. We'll see you guys next week. Take care.